Listen, we had a major trade, I would say, pretty major trade today before we get into the mock draft. We had a pretty major trade in the NFL today. Jonnu Smith, Jalen Ramsey headed to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That means Mika Fitzpatrick headed over to the Miami Dolphins. So for the Dolphins, obviously get an upgrade on the defensive side of the football. But then for the Steelers, you get a little bit of combination. You get a little bit of a bolster in the offensive side, and then maybe a slight, I would say almost like a pretty lateral move defensively, maybe a slight bump down. But for the most part, gives the Steelers a little bit extra. So I'm going to go over the impact today of what that looks like. But it is kind of interesting to see this thing happen, man, right here before training camp next month. So a good deal, I think, for both sides. A good deal for both sides, but for me, at the end of the day, I think this is I would say this. If you're worried about like both sides of it, here's how I play it. Jonnu. I think Jonnu goes from like potentially ADP-wise as a top 8 to 10 tight end. I think he bumps down to outside of the top 12. Outside of the top 12. And I think this is just going to be a Arthur Smith thing. We know Arthur Smith it's not a high-profile offense. Like you go from Miami to the Steelers, right? So I think for Jonnu, this is not a good look for those who wanted that top 5 finish that he had last year. I think you're going to see a bump down, but we could get some value. It all depends on how Arthur Smith decides to use him, right? So if Arthur Smith decides, hey, I want to use him as our, another receiver, which the Steelers don't have a ton of receivers, we might get some value out of Jonnu Smith, all right? As far as Pat Freiermuth comes down a little bit. He's going to come down a little bit. If you had him in that 15 to 20 range, he's outside the top 20. For DK Metcalf, things are still the same. And then when we go to the Miami side, bump up for Tyreek Hill if you had him outside of your top 10. Bump up for Jalen Waddle if you had him outside of your top 25. So I think Tyreek is going to firmly be inside the top 10 once draft season starts. And I think Jalen Waddle for sure is going to be inside the top 25 as a secondary pass catcher now. Also, slight bump up for those who like Devon Achane, like myself. For those who like Devon Achane, bump up. Like they're going to be using him out the slot. And I think the backup running backs might play a little bit more prominent role than we're thinking. So I think overall for the stud players in these offenses, it's a slight bump up or even. I don't think anybody really takes a hit outside of Pat Freiermuth, obviously. And I don't think it's even that big of a hit. He was a 506 touchdown guy anyway. It wasn't anything crazy. So, all right, for those who want to join the mock draft, I'm about to put the link into the chat in just a second. All right. What settings do you guys want to draft at today? I was planning on doing a 12 team to start off. What settings do you want to draft at today? That would be helpful for me in the chat. All right? Helpful for me in the chat. Kyrie, what's good, Brody? What's good? We're going to be drafting probably in about the next 2-3 minutes here. How you living, dog? Texas T, what's good? What's good? Let's get it. Is Tyler and Pete coming on today? Tell Ty to answer my DMs. Oh, Tyler hiding, huh? I think Tyler said he's going to come on in just a second. Would you draft Monty and Gibbs together? Would you draft Monty and Gibbs together? I would try not to, unfortunately. But it doesn't hurt you. Like I just don't like play. You got to take whatchamacallit kind of early. So you got to take Monty kind of early to take him and Gibbs. But I feel like you can get another standalone RB2 and do better off and be better off. Gabe, you asked me if Tyler and P are coming on today. I don't know about P, but I may have the answer to your other question. Here. Tyler, what's good?
Yo, what's up?
Man, I caught you drinking water. My bad, bro. Everything is good. You know what I'm saying? A little interesting news today, bro. Before we get into the mock draft, I'm going to send you a link right now. Before we get into the mock. But a little interesting news today. I want your opinion on it. I just dropped my thoughts on Jonnu Smith. I said, obviously, a slight bump down, but I didn't really have him that high anyway. And then as far as like the pass catchers for Miami, I said, I think ADP is going to go up for Tyreek and for Jalen Waddle, but I kind of already had Tyreek there at least. I said Tyreek's inside the top 10, Jalen Waddle's inside the top 25. Where are you at on this Jonnu Smith trade?
Yeah, I think for Jonnu Smith, I think this like completely nukes Jonnu Smith. Like I didn't want anything to do with him anyways. Personally, like I thought he was going too high. But now like I would want nothing to do with him. I don't think, we talked about this last time. I believe it was his first season ever inside the top 15 at the tight end position. So like I just don't see any value here. He'll fall down a little bit, but that's I would just avoid him. And then I do like I think this gives a big boost to potentially Jalen Waddle if he can rebound this season. And then another thing is because they were doing a lot of manufactured touches to Jonnu Smith last year, and I don't know like why that was happening. Maybe it was because Tyreek Hill was banged up, Jalen Waddle was hurt a little bit, but there was a lot of manufactured touches to Jonnu Smith. So maybe this year it kind of goes to Waddle a little bit now. But I also do think this kind of like takes Devon Achane to the moon. Like I really do think
see?
Achane could potentially, if he can stay healthy along with Tua, I do think there is a chance that he could be the RB1 in fantasy football. I think like in full point PPR formats, he could go nuclear this year. So he's somebody that intriguing.
I'm hoping that ADP doesn't start climbing too high, bro. Because I was
probably will. It probably will with all three of them, honestly.
Yeah, I got a lot of Achane. We was doing those best ball. I started doing a lot more best ball drafts after we did, and I got so much Devon Achane and Tyreek Hill. It's insane. I was getting so much of them, bro. But we are gonna mock draft, and so right now I'm gonna already send you the link. I'm gonna send you the link. We're gonna do a 12 team. Let's see. So some of the settings that you guys want, we're gonna have to do an auction draft next week. When we can do the auction draft for the entire show because that's a whole show thing. You know what I'm saying? So we'll definitely do PPR. See a lot of PPR in here. 12 team, 2 running back, 3 receiver, 3 receiver, 3 receiver. I see a couple half-point PPR in here. We'll do a 10 team.
Super flex. Are we doing super flex?
I haven't seen anybody want super flex
because the settings are on super flex right now.
Oh yeah, I'll take that off. Let's not do super flex. I see a couple 2 receivers. So let's do this. We'll do a 10 team after this one. For this first one, be 12 team, and we will do non-super flex. All right, 10 team, non-super, or 12 team, no super flex. Sound good, everybody? All right, I'm gonna drop it in the chat real quick. And let's take one of these bench spots off. We'll do 3 bench spots today. Update. Links up.
What did you think about the trade overall?
I thought it was a good trade for both sides. It was one of those deals where I think it worked out for both. Maybe a slight dip on the defensive side for the Steelers. You know, you obviously Minka Fitzpatrick for Jalen Ramsey, who's still good. I just don't think he is what he used to be. And then I thought offensively, you just get another weapon, another big body, so you're not having to like panic at receiver and make Calvin Austin your number 2 and wait for Van Jefferson or Roman Wilson to be your guy. It's like you get an impact receiver / tight end if Darnell Washington hasn't done what you thought he was going to do, right? And then as far as the Miami side goes, I think Miami offensively kind of stays the same. They probably go back a little bit to what was working for them 2 years ago, but I mean, it all comes down to Tua's health anyway. So I think
it's
even deal.
I like it. I do think that the reason why I like it is because the cap hit's really low for Jalen. I feel like they're gonna do something. They're probably gonna extend TJ Watt. I think that's why they did it because they needed the extra cap room to do it. And Jalen Ramsey is coming off that extension, but it was like I want to say it was a lot guaranteed. So they're eating that. Or at least I haven't seen anything on Steelers taking on any of that.